The shuttle landed with a soft hum on the silver platform of Prime Academy. Park stood near the window, watching the alien world come into view. Tall crystal towers reached toward the purple sky. Strange flying vehicles moved between buildings like metal birds. This was the most famous school in the entire galaxy, and he was the first human to ever set foot here. The door opened, picked up his small bag and walked out. Hundreds of eyes turned to look at him. Had expected this. He knew that humans were new to the galactic community. Earth had only made contact with alien civilizations 5 years ago. To most species in the galaxy, humans were still a mystery, a weak mystery, a joke. He could hear the whispers as he walked across the platform. That is the human, he looks so fragile. I heard their bones break easily. They need to sleep every single day, can you imagine? Their planet is mostly water, but they cannot even breathe underwater. What a useless species. Kept walking, his face showed nothing. His father had taught him this. Never let them see what you feel. Watch, learn, wait. A tall creature with an insect-like body approached him. It had 4 arms and large black eyes that seemed to look right through him. This was Vice Principal, had seen his picture in the welcome documents. "You are the human," said. It was not a question. "Yes, Sir." Park looked at him for a long moment. His antennae twitched with what might have been discussed. "Follow me. I will show you to your dormitory." They walked through the academy grounds. Students from dozens of different species watched them pass. Some pointed, some laughed. A group of tall, blue-skinned beings made jokes that pretended not to hear. The dormitory building led him to was old, very old. The walls had cracks. The lights flickered. It was clear that no one important lived here. "This is your room," said, stopping in front of a small door. "Classes begin tomorrow. Do not be late. The academy does not make exceptions for lesser species." Then he turned and walked away without another word. Entered his room. It was small and cold. The bed was hard. The window was dirty, but he had slept in worse places during his training on Earth. He sat on the bed and closed his eyes. He thought about his father's words before he left. They will test you not because they want to know if you are strong, because they want to prove that you are weak. Show them nothing. Give them nothing. And when the time comes, show them everything. The next day attended the orientation ceremony. The main hall was enormous. Thousands of students filled the seats. On the stage, various academy leaders gave speeches about excellence, honor, and the glory of the Galactic Coalition. Sat alone in the back row. No one sat near him. During a break, he went to get food from the dining area. The cafeteria was busy and loud. Took a tray and found a small table in the corner. He had barely started eating when a shadow fell over him. He looked up. 3 students stood before him. The one in front was massive. He had green scales, yellow eyes, and muscles that looked like they were carved from stone. His species had read about them. They came from a warrior culture. Fighting was their way of life. "So this is the human," they said. His voice was deep and rough. I lead the combat training team here. I wanted to see the new pet from Earth with my own eyes." The 2 behind him laughed. One was made of something like living rock. The other was a female with pale silver skin and eyes that glowed faintly purple. A telepath guessed. "You are even smaller than I expected," continued. "How does your species survive? You have no claws, no scales, no natural weapons at all." Said nothing. He simply looked at with calm eyes. This seemed to annoy. He was used to fear. He was used to respect. This human showed him neither. The female stepped forward, her glowing eyes focused on, "Let me see what he is thinking." She reached out with her mind, felt a strange pressure in his head, like fingers trying to open a locked door. A moment later, she stepped back with a confused expression. "Well?" asked. "I cannot read him clearly," she said. "His mind is chaotic, fragmented, like trying to watch 100 different screens at once. Human brains are strange. Weak in body and broken in mind, laughed. Perfect. He leaned down close to his face. Tomorrow, human, the arena. Let us see what your species is really made of. I will personally show the entire academy how pathetic humans truly are. Looked at him for a long moment, then he simply said, okay. Blinked, he had expected fear, begging, perhaps even tears, not this calm acceptance. Okay, he repeated, that is all you have to say. Yes. Stared at him, then laughed again, but there was something uncertain in his eyes now. Tomorrow, then. Do not run away in the night, little human. He turned and walked away with his followers. The female looked back once, her purple eyes still confused. She had touched many minds in her life. She had felt fear, anger, joy, and despair. But the human's mind was different. Behind all that chaos, she had felt something she could not name. Something patient, something waiting. It made her uncomfortable. That night lay in his small bed and looked at the ceiling. Tomorrow would be difficult, was bigger, stronger, and faster than him. The entire academy would be watching, hopping to see the human fail. But was not worried. His people had a long history. They had survived ice ages. They had crossed oceans on wooden boats. They had climbed the highest mountains and walked on the moon. They had faced extinction many times and always found a way forward. And his friends thought humans were weak, because they did not have claws or scales or telepathy. They did not understand. Humans had something better. They had will. And tomorrow would show them exactly what that meant. The news spread across the academy like fire. By morning, everyone knew. The warrior had challenged the human transfer student to an arena match. Students whispered in the hallways. Professors discussed it over breakfast. Even the cleaning robots seemed to move more slowly near conversation groups, as if they too wanted to hear the gossip. The combat arena was the heart of Prime Academy. It was a massive dome where students tested their bodies and minds against each other. Champions were made here. Legends were born here. And today, everyone believed a human would be destroyed here. Walked through the main entrance at exactly the scheduled time. The stands were completely full. Thousands of students from every species watched him enter. Most of them were smiling. They had come to see a show. They had come to watch the weak human suffer. Betting screens floated above the crowd. The odds were 200 to 1 against. Some students had bet on how quickly he would fall. The most popular guess was under 1 minute. Was already waiting in the center of the arena. He wore ceremonial armor that shined under the lights. His muscles flexed as he raised his arms to the cheering crowd. He was their champion, their hero, the one who would put the human in his place. Wore only the basic training uniform given to all first-year students. No armor, no special equipment, just simple gray fabric. The arena master, a floating sphere with a mechanical voice, announced the rules. Today's challenge is the endurance gauntlet. Both fighters will face the same obstacles. The first to reach the end wins. There are no other rules. Large screens around the arena showed the course. It was brutal. Gravity wells that would crush a normal person. Thermal zones with temperatures that switched between extreme hot and extreme cold. Razor corridors filled with spinning blades. And finally, a 200-meter electrified wall that had to be climbed to reach the finish. The crowd cheered louder. This was not just a test. This was punishment. Smiled at, I chose this course myself. Even I find it difficult. For you, it will be impossible. Said nothing. He simply stretched his arms and took a deep breath. The starting signal sounded. Exploded forward with incredible speed. His powerful legs carried him into the first obstacle before had taken 10 steps. The crowd roared with excitement. Began to run, not fast, steady, controlled. The gravity wells came first. Powered through them, his warrior training helping him resist the crushing force. moved more slowly, feeling each step carefully, conserving energy. By the time they reached the thermal zones, was far ahead. The crowd laughed at the gap between them. The human is already finished. He can barely move. This is too easy. The thermal zones were harsh. The temperature jumped from burning hot to freezing cold every few seconds. Reptilian blood gave him an advantage here. Cold-blooded species could adapt to temperature changes better than most. Began to sweat. His body was covered in moisture. Some aliens in the crowd made sounds of disgust. What is that liquid coming from his skin? Humans leak water when they are stressed. Disgusting. He is falling apart already. But a few professors in the high seats watched with different expressions. They knew what sweat actually was. They knew what it meant. The razor corridors came next. Spinning blades filled the path, used his speed and reflexes to dodge through them. He took a few cuts but nothing serious. Followed behind, moving carefully, timing each step. When they emerged from the corridors, something began to change. Was breathing hard now. His massive muscles needed massive amounts of oxygen. His heart was pounding. His body was starting to overheat. Reptilian species were powerful in short bursts, but they tired quickly. Was still sweating, still moving. His breathing was controlled and steady. His pace had not changed since the beginning. The gap between them began to close. The crowd noticed. The cheering became quieter. Confused whispers replaced the laughter. Why is the human still running? He should have collapsed by now. His body should have given up. The telepath leaned forward in her seat. She could feel his mind now. He was in pain. His muscles were screaming at him to stop. Every part of his body wanted to rest. She reached out to feel the human's mind. What she found made her blood run cold. There was no panic, no desperation, just a calm, steady focus. And beneath that, something ancient, something that whispered in the darkness of human history. Keep running, never stop. The prey always falls eventually. We just have to follow. She pulled back, shaking. The final obstacle approached. The electrified wall. 200 meters of vertical climbing while electricity sparked across the surface. Reached it first, but barely. His arms trembled as he began to climb. Every few meters he had to stop and rest. His lungs burned. His heart felt like it would explode. Reached the wall 30 seconds later. He did not pause. He began to climb. The crowd was silent now. Looked down and saw the human approaching. Fear filled his eyes for the first time. Impossible, he whispered. This is impossible. At the 150-meter mark, his body finally failed. His muscles locked up. His vision blurred. He could not hold on anymore. He fell back onto the safety platform below, gasping for air. Climbed past the spot where had fallen. He did not look down. He did not slow down. His arms burned. His legs ached. Every part of his body screamed for rest. But he did not stop. He had never stopped. Humans never stopped. He reached the top of the wall and pulled himself over the edge. The finish line flashed beneath him. Victory. The arena was completely silent. Thousands of aliens stared in disbelief at what they had just seen. Then slowly a few began to clap, then more. The applause grew until it filled the entire dome. Vice Principal stood frozen in his seat. His antennae trembled with shock. This cannot be, he muttered. Their species should not be able to do this. A professor beside him, an old being who had studied many species, spoke quietly. They call it persistence hunting. Millions of years ago, humans chased their prey across entire continents. They did not need to be faster. They just needed to never stop. Their bodies evolved to keep going when everything else falls down. We made a mistake, Vice Principal. We thought they were weak. We were wrong. Down in the arena, climbed down from the wall. He walked past the medical teams rushing to help. He walked past the silent crowds. He walked toward the exit without looking back. still lying on the safety platform, looked up at the human's back. His whole life, he had been taught that strength meant big muscles and sharp claws. He had been taught that warriors were the ones who could hit the hardest. Now he understood something new. True strength was not about being the most powerful. It was about being the one who refused to fall. And for the first time in his life, felt something he had never experienced before. Fear of a species that seemed to have no limits. 2 weeks passed since the arena match. Everything at the academy had changed. Students no longer laughed when walked by. Instead, they watched him with curious eyes. Some even moved out of his way in the hallways. The video of his victory had spread across the galactic network. Billions of beings had watched a small human defeat one of the best warriors in the academy. Scientists wrote papers about human endurance. News programs discussed the persistent predator species from Earth. For the first time, the galaxy was paying attention to humans. But not everyone was happy about this. In a dark corner of the academy, far from the main buildings, 3 figures met in secret. Sat on a stone bench, his head down. His reputation was destroyed. Other students whispered behind his back. Some called him weak. Others said he had let them down. The shame was eating him alive. Stood near the window, her purple eyes glowing in the shadows. "You have been hiding for 2 weeks. This cannot continue." "What do you want me to do?" snapped. "The human made me look like a fool in front of everyone. My family name is ruined. My future is gone." The stone-skinned warrior cracked his massive knuckles. "We should just crush him, break his bones, show everyone he got lucky." "No," said calmly. "Violence in the open would get us expelled. We need something smarter." She paused, a cold smile forming on her lips. "The survival exam is coming." Looked up, the exam on 7. Yes, teams are dropped on the moon for 72 hours. No supervision, no rules. Anything that happens there, stays there. The meaning was clear. Eyes began to shine with dark hope. "We make sure the human is on our team," continued. "Then we leave him in the most dangerous zone. The predators there are hungry. The cold is deadly. No one survives alone on 7. Grinned, showing his stone teeth. "And when they find his body, we say it was an accident. Sad story. Human was not ready for a real challenge." Stood up slowly. The shame in his eyes was replaced by something darker, something hungry for revenge. "Do it," he said. "Make it happen." Nodded. "I will speak with the examination committee. A few mental suggestions here and there. They will not even know their decisions are not their own." The 3 of them looked at each other in the darkness. The plan was set. Meanwhile, was in the academy library. He sat alone at a table, reading about the different species in the Galactic Coalition. He liked to understand his enemies before they made their moves. Knowledge was a weapon, his father had always said. A soft sound made him look up. A female student stood near his table. She was small, with pale blue skin and fins where humans would have ears. Her species was aquatic, able to breathe both air and water. Her name tag said. "May I sit?" she asked quietly. Nodded. Sat across from him, looking nervous. Her fingers tapped the table as she gathered her courage. "I heard something," she finally said. "Something bad." Put down his book. "Tell me." "And his friends. They are planning something for the survival exam. I was swimming in the old pool section and they did not know I was there. The water carries sound." She paused, her eyes filled with worry. "They want to kill you. They will put you on their team and leave you to die on 7. Was quiet for a moment, then he simply said, "I know." Blinked in confusion. "You know how?" "The way they look at me, the way they whisper when I pass, they are not planning a party." A small smile crossed his face. "I have seen this before. Bullies are the same everywhere. Earth, space. It does not matter." "Then why are you not scared? 7 is dangerous. The predators there have killed trained soldiers. The temperature drops to -40 at night. You could actually die. Leaned back in his chair. His eyes looked distant, as if seeing something far away. On Earth, he said slowly, there is a saying, fear is not the enemy. Fear is fuel. You take it and you burn it and you use it to keep moving when everything tells you to stop. Stared at him. She had met many species in her life. She had studied their behaviors and their minds, but she had never met anyone like this human. You are strange, she said finally. I have been told. A soft laugh escaped her lips. It surprised them both. I want to help you, said. I do not have many friends here. My species is small. We are not warriors, but I can swim faster than anyone and I notice things others miss. Maybe that is useful. Looked at her for a long moment. Then he reached out and shook her hand. Maybe it is, he said. Thank you. The next day, the survival exam team assignments were announced. Stood in the crowd as the lists appeared on the floating screens. There it was, Team 7, Park. He heard gasps somewhere behind him. Across the hall was smiling, looked pleased with herself, cracked his knuckles in anticipation. They thought they had already won. Turned and walked toward the shuttle bay. He would need to prepare. 7 was waiting, and so was death itself. But death had tried to take humans many times throughout history. It had failed every single time. The shuttle launched an hour later. Inside, sat near the window while and his friends sat together in the back, whispering their final plans. Walked up to as they entered the moon's atmosphere. He leaned close, his reptilian breath hot on his face. This is where your story ends, human. No cameras, no professors, no one to save you. Looked out the window at the approaching wilderness. Dense forests, frozen mountains, a world designed to kill. We will see, he said calmly. Laughed and walked away. Watched from her seat. She reached out with her mind again, trying to understand this strange human. Once more, she found only that calm patience, that ancient certainty. But this time she caught something else, a flash of memory, a vision of Earth, humans walking across endless plains, humans climbing frozen mountains, humans sailing across deadly oceans. And in all those memories, one truth repeated again and again. Humans survived. No matter what. The shuttle landed on 7 with a heavy thud. The door opened, letting in cold air that cut like a knife. Stepped out into the wilderness. Let the hunt begin. The forests of 7 were dark and endless. Trees with black bark rose toward a gray sky. Strange sounds echoed through the woods. Creatures moved in the shadows, watching the newcomers with hungry eyes. The team had been on the moon for less than an hour when made his move. They were walking through a narrow valley when suddenly grabbed from behind. His stone arms were like chains, impossible to break. What are you doing? Asked, though he already knew. Stepped forward, smiling. What we should have done from the beginning, ending the human problem. Raised her hand, her eyes glowing brighter. Felt pressure building inside his skull. She was attacking his mind, trying to confuse him, to break his focus. The world became blurry, colors mixed together, up and down lost their meaning. Through the haze felt throw him. He flew through the air and fell into a deep ravine. He hit the ground hard, pain exploding through his body. Above him he heard laughter. Goodbye, human, called down. The predators will find you soon. Try not to scream too much. Their footsteps faded into the distance. Lay still for a long moment, every part of him hurt. His left arm was badly bruised. His ribs ached with each breath. Blood dripped from a cut on his forehead. But nothing was broken, nothing was destroyed. He had survived worse during training on Earth. Slowly, carefully, he stood up. He looked around the ravine, high walls on every side, no easy way to climb out, no supplies, no communication device. Just him, and 68 hours until extraction. Took a deep breath and began to work. First, shelter. He found a small cave in the ravine wall, It was cold and damp, but it would protect him from the wind. Next, water. He followed the sound of dripping until he found a small stream. He tested it carefully. It was safe to drink. Finally, weapons. He searched the ground for useful materials. Sharp stones became cutting tools. Long bones from dead animals became spears. Vines became rope. By the time night fell, had built a small camp. He had fire made the old way by rubbing sticks together. He had weapons. He had a plan. The temperature dropped rapidly. -40 degrees. -50. The cold was like a living thing trying to crawl inside him and steal his warmth. But had studied 7 before the exam. He knew how to survive. He kept moving, kept his blood flowing. He added more wood to the fire. He did not sleep. Humans could go days without sleep when needed. Meanwhile, across the forest, and his team had set up their own camp. They had proper supplies, warm shelters, and advanced equipment. They sat around a heated tent, celebrating their success. By now, the human is probably already dead, laughed. The cold alone would kill most species. Sipped a warm drink. Even if he survives the night the stalkers hunt at dawn, nothing escapes them. Smiled with satisfaction. When we return to the academy, we will be heroes, the human problem solved, my honor restored. They talked and laughed late into the night, never noticing the eyes watching them from the darkness. The stalkers had found them. These predators were the most dangerous creatures on 7. They had 6 legs, each ending in razor-sharp claws. Their fangs contained venom that paralyzed victims within seconds. They hunted in packs of 10 or more, surrounding their prey before attacking from all sides. And they were attracted to heat signatures. The warm tent was like a bright signal in the cold night. The attack came without warning. One moment was laughing. The next, a stalker crashed through the tent wall, fangs flashing. Screamed. She tried to use her telepathy, but the stalkers were animals. Their minds were too simple, too focused on hunger. Her powers were useless. Swung his massive fists, hitting one stalker and sending it flying. But 3 more took its place. They were too fast, too many. Pulled out his weapon, firing energy blasts into the darkness. He hit a few, but more kept coming. The pack was closing in. Soon they would be surrounded. Soon they would die. Then something impossible happened. A torch flew out of the forest and landed among the stalkers. Fire exploded across the ground, making the creatures scatter in fear. A figure stepped out of the shadows. He was covered in mud and blood, not his own blood. He held a spear in one hand and a burning branch in the other. His eyes were calm and focused. "Run," he said, "now." Stared in disbelief. You are alive." Later, run. The stalkers were regrouping. Their fear of fire was fatting as hunger took over, stepped between them and the others. "Take the eastern path. There is a river, they will not cross water, go." "But you." "Gio." Something in his voice made them obey, and ran into the forest without looking back. Turned to face the stalkers. There were at least 15 of them now. Their eyes glowed red in the firelight. Their fangs dripped with venom. Did not run. Instead, he fought. He used the terrain against them, leading them into narrow spaces where only one could attack at a time. He used the fire to create barriers. He set traps with the vines and sharpened bones. When one stalker got too close, he stabbed it with his spear. When another tried to flank him, he threw burning branches at its face. He was not stronger than them, he was not faster. But he was smarter. And he never stopped moving. The fight lasted hours. By dawn, 8 stalkers lay dead on the ground. The rest of the pack finally gave up. They retreated into the forest, leaving standing alone in the morning light. He was covered in wounds. His clothes were torn. His body screamed with exhaustion. But he was alive. He followed the path east and found the others by the river. They were sitting on the rocks, shivering with cold and fear. When they saw him approach, their faces showed something he had never seen before. Respect and shame. Stood up slowly. His voice was quiet, almost broken. You came back for us after what we did. You came back. Sat down on a rock and began cleaning his wounds with river water. Yes. Why? Was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. On Earth there is a story. Long ago 2 hunters went into the mountains. One betrayed the other and left him to die. But the abandoned hunter survived. When he found the traitor again, he did not kill him. He helped him, because that is what made him human. Not revenge, not hate, helping even those who hurt you. He looked at them with tired eyes. That is what humans do. We fight, we survive, but we do not abandon people, even when they deserve it. Felt tears forming in her eyes. She had touched many minds in her life. She had felt evil, greed, cruelty, but she had never felt anything like what she felt from this human now. Pure, unconditional mercy. It was the most powerful thing she had ever experienced. Fell to his knees. I am sorry, I was wrong about your species, I was wrong about everything. Stood up and extended his hand. Then let us start over. We have a long walk to the extraction point, together. Took his hand and stood. Together, they began walking through the forest. And something had changed. Not just between them, but across the entire galaxy. The extraction shuttle landed on Prime in the early morning. Medical teams rushed forward as the doors opened. They expected injuries. They expected drama. They did not expect what they saw. Stepped out first. Then, all of them were tired and injured, but they walked on their own feet. And beside them, also walking on his own feet, was Park. Together, the medical teams froze. The other students watching from a distance went silent. This was not how the story was supposed to end. Vice Principal pushed through the crowd. His black eyes scanned the group with suspicion. What happened out there? Reports show your team entered the most dangerous zone on 7. You should not have survived. Stepped forward. His voice was different now. Quieter, humble. We need to speak with the Academy Council, Vice Principal. There are things that must be said. An hour later, the council chamber was full. All the senior professors sat in their elevated seats. Students packed the viewing galleries above. News drones floated near the ceiling, broadcasting everything across the galaxy. Sat at the center of the council table. This session is called to investigate potential misconduct during the survival exam. Of VII, you have requested to speak. Proceed. Stood in the center of the chamber. His massive form seemed smaller somehow. His voice echoed through the room. We tried to kill the human. Gasps filled the chamber. Whispers exploded across the viewing galleries. Leaned forward, explain. We threw him into a ravine. We left him to die. We wanted revenge for our shame. Paused, his yellow eyes meetings, but he survived. He tracked us through the forest. When the stalkers attacked our camp when we were seconds from death, he appeared. The chamber was completely silent now. He fought them alone. He killed 8 of them to buy us time to escape. Then he found us again and led us to safety. His voice cracked. We tried to murder him, and he saved our lives. Stepped forward, her purple eyes dim with emotion. I have touched many minds in my life. I know evil. I know cruelty. But when I touched the human's mind during the fight, I felt something I have never encountered before. What? A professor asked. Purpose, pure purpose. No hate, no desire for revenge, just an absolute determination to protect, even those who had tried to kill him. She paused. It was the most beautiful and terrifying thing I have ever felt. The council members looked at each other in confusion. This was not what they expected. Antennae twitched with irritation. This is an examination hearing, not a place for emotional speeches. The human was nearly killed. There must be consequences. Then punish us, said. We accept whatever judgment the council gives, but first Give the human the recognition he deserves. From the back of the chamber, an old professor raised his hand. He was ancient, his species having lived for over 1,000 years. His name was Historian Vex, and he had studied countless civilizations. "May I speak?" Nodded reluctantly. Historian Vex stood slowly. "I have spent my life studying the species of this galaxy, the warriors of, the telepaths of Prime, the stone people of Swirled. All of them are impressive in their own ways, but none of them compare to what I have learned about humans." The chamber listened in silence. Humans are not the strongest. They are not the fastest. They have no natural weapons, no special abilities, no obvious advantages. And yet, their species conquered their entire planet. They survived ice ages, plagues, and countless wars. They reached their moon before most species discovered fire. He walked slowly toward the center of the chamber. "Do you know why? Because humans have something rare in this universe. They have will, unbreakable, unstoppable will. When their body says stop, their mind says continue. When everything tells them to give up, they refuse. They are the species that never quits." He stopped beside, who had remained silent throughout the session. "And more than that, they have compassion. They could have become conquerors, destroyers like so many powerful species before them. Instead, they choose to help. They choose mercy. That is not weakness. That is the greatest strength of all." The chamber was completely silent. Finally spoke. His voice was calm and quiet, but it filled the room. "I did not come here to prove anything. I came here to learn, to understand, to show my species that we can work together with the rest of the galaxy." He looked at. What happened on 7 was not a victory or a defeat. It was a lesson for all of us. He paused. "Humans have a saying, today's enemy can be tomorrow's friend. I believe that. I have to believe that. Because if we cannot forgive, if we cannot move forward together, then what is the point of any of this?" The viewing galleries erupted in applause. Students from dozens of species stood and cheered. Even some of the professors joined in. Vice Principal looked around in disbelief. His plan to humiliate the human had failed completely. Instead, the human had become a hero. The head of the council, an elderly female of a species known for their wisdom, raised her hand for silence. "The council has reached its decision and will face disciplinary action for their conduct. However, in light of their honest confession and the events that followed, they will be allowed to remain at the academy on probation." She turned to Park of Earth. "You have shown remarkable courage, skill, and character. You have completed the survival exam with a perfect score, the first in 200 years. But more importantly, you have shown the galaxy something we had forgotten." She smiled. "That true strength lies not in power but in purpose, not in conquest but in compassion. The Council hereby awards you the Medal of Unity, the highest honor our academy can give." The applause was thunderous. Later that day, stood alone on the observation deck of the academy. The sun was setting over the alien world, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Footsteps approached behind him. Appeared at his side, her blue skin glowing softly in the evening light. "The whole galaxy is talking about you. You are famous now." "I did not want to be famous." "I know," she smiled. "That is probably why you deserve it." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sunset. "What will you do now?" asked. Thought for a moment. "Continue learning, continue trying to understand, build bridges between humans and the rest of the galaxy." He looked at her. "Maybe make a few friends along the way." Laughed. "I think you already have." Far across the galaxy, on 100 different worlds, billions of beings watched the news broadcasts. They saw the human standing before the council. They heard his words about forgiveness and moving forward. And for the first time, they began to wonder. What else were humans capable of? On Earth, a military officer watched the broadcast with tears in his eyes. He was father. He had sent his son into the unknown, hoping he would make them proud. He had done so much more. The broadcast ended with a simple statement when asked for comment. "I just did what any human would do." And across the stars, a new era was beginning. An era where humans were no longer seen as weak, primitive, or unimportant. An era where the galaxy understood that the small species from the blue planet might just be the most remarkable beings of all. Not because of what they could destroy, but because of what they chose to protect. The human era had begun, and it would change everything.